What if the next global catastrophe isn't a question of if, but when? Governments around the world have spent billions preparing for the unthinkable: nuclear war, biological threats, asteroid impacts, catastrophic climate events. But here's what they're not telling you. They've already built the infrastructure to survive. Vast underground cities capable of housing thousands. Self-sustaining bunkers equipped with decades of supplies. Facilities carved deep into mountains and buried beneath deserts. These places exist. They're operational, and most were constructed in secret. The official story claims these are simple emergency shelters, Cold War relics, outdated precautions. But the evidence tells a different story: construction that never stopped, budgets that disappeared into classified projects, insider testimonies describing facilities far beyond anything publicly acknowledged. These aren't abandoned bunkers. They're active operations, maintained, expanded, ready. Today, we're examining 10 underground cities built specifically to survive an apocalypse. These aren't conspiracy theories. These are documented facilities with paper trails, construction records, and eyewitness accounts. Some are acknowledged, but downplayed. Others remain completely classified. What you're about to discover reveals a fascinating truth about continuity of government planning. While the public receives warnings to shelter in place, certain infrastructure exists on a scale most never imagined. Fair warning: this evidence contradicts the comfortable narrative presented in civil defense pamphlets. The reality is far more extensive. These facilities weren't built as public shelters. They were built for continuity of operations. The question isn't whether these underground cities exist. The documentation proves they do. The question is what this reveals about emergency preparedness priorities. Number 1 takes us deep beneath the mountains of West Virginia. The Greenbrier Resort looks like an elegant hotel. Politicians and diplomats have vacationed there since the 1700s. Beautiful grounds, historic charm. But beneath the luxury lies something far more interesting: a massive underground bunker designed to house the entire United States Congress during nuclear war. The facility was built between 1958 and 1962. Code name: Project Greek Island. The government paid the Greenbrier Corporation to construct it in absolute secrecy. They disguised the operation as a routine renovation. Tons of concrete poured, steel reinforcements installed, massive blast doors fitted, all hidden beneath a new wing of the hotel. The bunker spans over 100,000 square feet. It contains dormitories for 1,100 people, a complete medical facility with operating rooms, decontamination showers, independent power generation, water purification systems, massive food storage, communication equipment capable of running the government. Everything needed to survive underground for months. Here's what makes this interesting: the facility remained classified for over 30 years. Maintenance workers signed secrecy agreements. Special government contractors performed regular updates. The sleeping quarters stayed stocked with fresh linens. The cafeteria equipment remained operational. This wasn't a mothballed Cold War relic. This was an active emergency facility maintained at taxpayer expense. The Washington Post finally exposed it in 1992. Reporter Ted Gupp published the full details. Suddenly, the secret was out. The government acknowledged the bunker existed. They claimed it was no longer useful once exposed. They decommissioned it. Tours now run through the facility. You can see the blast doors yourself. But here's the fascinating part: the Greenbrier bunker wasn't the only one. It was just the one they admitted to. Congressional testimony from the 1990s revealed the government maintained multiple underground facilities, some for Congress, some for military command, some for civilian leadership. When pressed for details, officials cited national security. Those locations remain classified. What does this tell us? The government built elaborate underground cities for continuity of government, while the general public received civil defense pamphlets about emergency procedures. The engineering achievement is remarkable. Most importantly, it shows facilities this size can remain secret for decades. If they admitted to this one, what others remain hidden? Number 2 brings us to the mountains of Colorado, Cheyenne Mountain Complex. Unlike Greenbrier, this facility was never fully secret. The military acknowledged its existence. But what they've disclosed barely scratches the surface of what's actually there. Construction began in 1961. The project took 5 years and cost over $140 million. They blasted into solid granite, carved out chambers deep inside the mountain, installed 15 buildings on massive springs to absorb nuclear blast shockwaves, protected by blast doors weighing 25 tons each, designed to withstand a 30-megaton nuclear explosion. The official story is straightforward. Cheyenne Mountain serves as NORAD headquarters, North American Aerospace Defense Command. They monitor airspace, track satellites, watch for missile launches. That's the public version. A military operations center, perfectly reasonable for Cold War planning. But insiders describe something far more extensive. The disclosed facility occupies 4.5 acres. That's just the official footprint. Construction workers from the 1960s reported tunnels extending much deeper, chambers not included in any public documentation, areas requiring special clearances even military personnel couldn't access. A former contractor spoke to reporters in 2008. He described vast expansion projects in restricted sections, new construction happening behind secured blast doors, supplies delivered through unmarked tunnels. He estimated the actual facility was 3 times larger than publicly acknowledged. When questioned, military spokespeople denied any expansion. They claimed the facility was unchanged since the 1980s. Here's where it gets interesting. In 2006, the military announced they were moving NORAD operations out of Cheyenne Mountain. Budget reasons, they claimed. Too expensive to maintain. Operations relocated to Peterson Air Force Base. The mountain facility would be placed on warm standby, minimal staff, reduced operations. Then, in 2015, everything reversed. The Pentagon announced they were moving operations back inside Cheyenne Mountain, spending millions on upgrades, reinforcing the facility. The official explanation? Protection against electromagnetic pulse attacks. They needed the mountain's shielding. But that explanation raises questions. If the facility was obsolete in 2006, why is it suddenly essential in 2015? What changed? The most logical answer? It was never really abandoned. The warm standby story provided cover. They reduced public visibility while continuing classified operations. When they needed to expand again, they manufactured justification. Cheyenne Mountain represents something crucial, a facility that exists in 2 versions. The public version designed for media tours and official statements. The classified version, operating behind those 25-ton blast doors. The engineering alone is remarkable. The question is, what exactly happens in those undisclosed chambers? Number 3 takes us beneath the peaceful farmland of Pennsylvania. Raven Rock Mountain Complex, also known as Site R. This facility operates as the Pentagon's alternate location, a backup command center for the Department of Defense. At least that's the official designation. The complex was built starting in 1951, completed in 1953, constructed inside Raven Rock Mountain along the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. The facility burrows 700 feet underground, protected by granite and reinforced concrete, designed to survive direct nuclear strikes during the Cold War era. The official description is limited. The military acknowledges the facility exists. They confirm it serves as an alternate command post. Personnel work there continuously. Communication equipment links to global military networks. That's where public information ends. Details about size, capacity, and capabilities remain classified for national security. But declassified documents from the 1960s reveal something much larger. Construction specifications describe a facility capable of housing 3,000 people, multiple office buildings constructed underground, a complete power plant, independent water supply, hospital facilities, enough supplies for sustained operations without surface contact. A reporter visited the facility in 2003, escorted tour, limited access. He described massive blast doors, underground streets wide enough for vehicles, buildings constructed entirely inside the mountain. What struck him most was the engineering scale. This wasn't a simple bunker. This was an underground military base fully equipped for long-term occupation. Security around Raven Rock is extraordinary. Motion sensors cover the mountain, guard posts at every approach, restricted airspace above, regular military patrols. Unauthorized approach results in immediate confrontation. This level of security reflects the facility's importance to national defense continuity. Local residents report continuous activity, convoys entering the facility regularly, heavy equipment movements, construction noise from inside the mountain. When questioned, military spokespeople claim routine maintenance. The activity suggests ongoing facility updates and improvements. The most interesting detail emerged from budget documents. Between 2005 and 2010, over $300 million was allocated to Raven Rock upgrades. The documents described facility expansion and capability enhancements, but no details about what was expanded or enhanced. That funding went toward classified improvements. Behind secured doors inside a mountain, Raven Rock demonstrates a pattern. Facilities acknowledged to exist, but with classified details. Limited disclosure, designed to satisfy public curiosity while protecting operational security. The military admits the mountain houses an emergency command center. They don't discuss the specific capabilities or full extent. When major emergencies occur, the Pentagon has alternate locations ready. That much is documented. The engineering behind these facilities represents decades of continuity planning. Number 4 brings us to Mount Weather in Virginia, just 48 miles from Washington, D.C. This facility serves as a primary emergency relocation site for the federal government, the place where civilian leadership evacuates during catastrophic emergencies. Unlike Raven Rock's military focus, Mount Weather houses civilian government operations. The Federal Emergency Management Agency officially runs the facility. FEMA built Mount Weather in the 1950s as part of Cold War continuity of government planning. The surface looks unremarkable. A small administrative complex, communication towers, security fencing. The real facility lies beneath the mountain. Very little official information exists about Mount Weather's underground sections. FEMA acknowledges the facility contains emergency operations centers. They confirm it houses government personnel during crises. Beyond that, information remains classified. Congressional representatives have requested tours. Access denied for security reasons. Reporters file Freedom of Information requests, documents returned heavily redacted, but information emerged over decades through proper channels. A FEMA contractor testified before Congress in the 1970s. He described a substantial underground complex, office buildings, residential facilities, a hospital, television studios, a small lake providing water supply, capabilities to house several thousand people for extended periods. The facility includes its own power generation, multiple backup systems, water purification, air filtration, designed to handle various contamination scenarios, communication equipment, connecting to military and civilian networks worldwide. Everything needed to maintain government operations without surface access. What makes Mount Weather particularly interesting is its activation history. During the September 11th attacks, personnel evacuated there immediately. The facility became operational within hours. Key government officials relocated underground. This wasn't a Cold War relic gathering dust. This was an active command center ready for instant deployment. Similar activations occurred during other crises, major hurricanes, significant security events. Certain incidents trigger Mount Weather protocols. Personnel deploy. The facility goes active. But the public receives limited information about operations inside that mountain. Local residents describe observable patterns. Helicopter traffic increases during crises. Convoys enter the facility. Security perimeter expands. Then everything returns to baseline. The surface maintains its administrative appearance. But underground, the facility remains in constant readiness, always maintained, always staffed, always prepared. Mount Weather represents continuity of government planning at its most developed. The facility ensures federal leadership can continue operations during catastrophic events. The engineering is impressive. The scale is substantial. The capabilities remain largely classified. This reveals emergency preparedness priorities. Resources were allocated to ensure government continuity. Substantial infrastructure built specifically for leadership protection. While public shelters remain limited, facilities like Mount Weather demonstrate what's possible when resources are committed. The disparity raises interesting questions about emergency planning philosophy. When disaster strikes, certain infrastructure exists that most citizens never see. The engineering alone represents remarkable achievement. The commitment to maintaining these facilities shows their perceived importance. Number 5 takes us to the desert landscape of Nevada, Area 6. Not to be confused with its famous neighbor, Area 51. This classified military installation sits within the Nevada test site, where nuclear weapons were tested during the Cold War. But Area 6 wasn't just for testing weapons. It houses something far more interesting from an engineering perspective. The facility began construction in the early 1960s. Engineers carved massive chambers out of volcanic rock. They built reinforced structures deep underground, installed blast doors and life support systems. The official purpose? Nuclear effects testing, studying how underground facilities withstand atomic blasts. That's the documented mission. Declassified documents reveal additional purposes. Area 6 served as a prototype for deep underground military bases. Engineers experimented with construction techniques, tested different chamber designs, developed life support systems for extended underground habitation. They were perfecting the technology for broader applications. The facility includes extensive tunnel networks. Some connect to other areas of the Nevada test site. Others reportedly extend for considerable distances. Workers described vast chambers capable of housing vehicles, underground storage areas, accommodation blocks, infrastructure for a self-contained base. Security around Area 6 rivals anywhere in the country. Armed patrols, sensor networks, restricted airspace. Even personnel with top-secret clearances couldn't access all areas. Sections remained compartmentalized. Need-to-know basis strictly enforced. This level of security reflects the classified nature of operations. The most interesting testimonies came from contractors who worked there in the 1980s and 90s. They described ongoing construction in the deepest sections, new chambers being excavated, modern equipment installed. One contractor estimated some tunnels reached 800 feet below the surface, far deeper than necessary for basic testing purposes. Energy consumption data tells an interesting story. The facility draws massive amounts of power, far more than necessary for maintaining an inactive site. That electricity powers active systems, equipment that requires constant operation, systems that continued running after nuclear testing ended. Several researchers have attempted to study Area 6 using satellite imagery. The surface structures appear minimal, small buildings, vehicle yards, nothing suggesting substantial underground development. But ground-penetrating radar, conducted by independent scientists, detected significant anomalies. Void spaces deep underground extending for substantial areas. Structures too regular to be natural geological features. When confronted with these findings, military representatives declined comment. National security classification. The standard response. But their unwillingness to discuss the facility's scope speaks volumes. If Area 6 was just a defunct testing site, complete transparency would be simple. The logical conclusion becomes clear when examining continuity planning. Nevada provides ideal geography for deep underground facilities. Remote location, stable geology, existing security infrastructure from the test site. Area 6 likely represents experimentation with technologies later applied elsewhere. Underground construction techniques perfected through this program. The engineering challenges of deep underground construction are substantial. Ventilation at depth, power distribution, water management, structural integrity. Area 6 provided a testing ground for solving these problems. Knowledge gained there likely influenced later projects. Number 6 brings us to the forests of Pennsylvania, the Alternate Joint Communications Center. Known by insiders as Site RT, This installation serves as a backup for military communications, an alternate command post for continuity operations. At least that's the official designation for this Cold War-era facility. The facility was constructed in the late 1950s, buried beneath Blue Ridge Summit in Pennsylvania, located near Camp David's security perimeter. The proximity isn't coincidental. Multiple secure facilities cluster in this region, connected by classified transportation infrastructure, quick evacuation routes for Washington leadership. Official information about Site RT is extremely limited. The military acknowledges it exists. They confirm it maintains communication equipment. Beyond that, details remain classified for operational security. Congressional oversight committees have restricted access. Most legislators don't know the facility's full capabilities. Information is compartmentalized to protect sensitive operations. Contractors who worked on upgrades in the 2000s described a facility much larger than publicly acknowledged. The disclosed surface buildings cover perhaps an acre, but underground construction extends far beyond that footprint. One contractor described tunnel systems connecting multiple chamber complexes. He estimated total floor space exceeded 100,000 square feet. The facility includes extensive communication arrays, satellite uplinks, radio systems, fiber optic networks, equipment designed to maintain command and control when normal infrastructure fails. But the communication equipment represents just one aspect. The facility also contains living quarters, food storage, medical facilities, infrastructure for sustained occupation. Power generation at Site RT deserves attention. The facility maintains multiple independent power sources, diesel generators, battery systems. Reports suggest geothermal systems as well. This redundancy isn't standard for a simple relay station. This is power infrastructure designed for critical operations that must remain functional regardless of surface conditions. Security protocols around Site RT match the most sensitive military installations. Restricted airspace, armed response, sensor networks. Anyone approaching without authorization faces immediate confrontation. Local law enforcement is instructed to maintain distance. Federal jurisdiction is absolute. Even local officials lack information about facility operations. The most interesting aspect is staffing. Despite official descriptions suggesting minimal operations, the facility maintains personnel around the clock. Guard rotations, technical staff, support personnel. Someone is always there, always monitoring, always ready. That level of constant readiness indicates active operations, not a backup facility on standby. Budget documents reveal continuous funding, millions of dollars allocated annually for maintenance and operations. But the amounts seem substantial for simply maintaining equipment. The money funds ongoing operations, likely system upgrades, facility improvements, preparation for potential full activation. Site RT represents another piece of the larger picture. Multiple facilities scattered across the eastern United States, each capable of supporting government and military operations, each connected through secure communications, each maintained in constant readiness. The network ensures continuity, regardless of which facilities remain operational during emergencies. The engineering required to maintain these facilities is impressive. Climate control systems running continuously, power generation equipment tested regularly, communication systems updated with new technology. The commitment to readiness demonstrates the perceived importance of maintaining these capabilities. Number 7 takes us far north, to the granite mountains of Norway. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Unlike the previous facilities, this one isn't classified. The Norwegian government openly acknowledges it. Media tours showcase its purpose, protecting plant genetic diversity, a backup for global agriculture. That's the official mission. But the timing and scale tell an interesting story about long-term planning. The facility opened in February 2008, carved into a mountain on Spitsbergen Island, about 800 miles from the North Pole. The location was chosen for specific reasons: stable geology, permafrost, providing natural cooling, remote location away from potential conflict zones, optimal conditions for long-term storage. The vault tunnels 430 feet into the mountain, Storage chambers maintain temperature at -18 degrees Celsius. The facility can hold 4.5 million seed samples. Currently, it houses over 1 million samples, representing 13,000 years of agricultural history. Seeds from virtually every country, every major crop variety, an agricultural backup for human civilization. The official story emphasizes scientific preservation, protecting biodiversity, insurance against crop failures, and climate change. All perfectly legitimate reasons for this international effort. But look at who participated in funding and planning. The Norwegian government provided the facility, but major support came from international organizations, agricultural foundations, research institutions. Multinational interest in a government preservation project. The timing raises interesting questions. Construction began in 2006, right when concerns about global challenges entered mainstream discussion. Climate change, food security, crop disease threats. The seed vault opened just as these concerns reached prominence. Whether coincidence or response to perceived risks remains debatable. Security at Svalbard exceeds normal scientific facilities, blast-proof doors, airlocks, remote monitoring systems. The vault is designed to survive natural disasters and potential conflicts. It can operate without external power for extended periods. The permafrost provides passive cooling even if systems fail. This represents engineering for extreme scenarios. The facility's capacity deserves attention. Currently, less than a quarter of available storage is used. Why build space for 4.5 million samples when 1 million achieves the stated preservation goal? The excess capacity suggests planning for future expansion, perhaps anticipation of additional deposits, or preparation for scenarios requiring rapid collection. Documentation describes the vault as a resource for rebuilding agriculture after catastrophic crop failures. But rebuilding requires more than seeds. It requires knowledge, infrastructure for planting, stable conditions for growing. The seeds alone don't restart agriculture, they're just one piece, which suggests complementary resources exist elsewhere. Other facilities storing other essential materials. Norway also happens to maintain extensive civil defense infrastructure. Their emergency planning philosophy differs from many countries. More comprehensive, more focused on population protection. The seed vault fits within this broader preparation approach, a resource for the future regardless of what challenges emerge. Svalbard represents a different category of underground facility, not military, not governmental in the traditional sense, but serving a similar long-term purpose, preserving essential resources for post-catastrophe scenarios. The engineering is impressive. The concept is forward-thinking. The question is, what other preservation efforts exist that haven't been publicized? Number 8 brings us back to American soil. The Yucca Mountain Project in Nevada, located about 100 miles northwest of Las Vegas. The facility was designed to store radioactive waste from nuclear power plants. Decades of planning, billions in construction costs. Then suddenly, the project was canceled. The official story leaves interesting questions unanswered. Planning for Yucca Mountain began in 1978. Congress designated it as the nation's nuclear waste repository in 1987. Construction of exploratory tunnels started in the 90s. Engineers bored miles of tunnels into volcanic rock, created massive storage chambers, installed ventilation systems, built infrastructure for waste handling operations. The facility tunnels reach over 500 feet beneath the mountain surface. The main tunnel extends 5 miles into the mountain. Designed for storage capacity of 70,000 metric tons of radioactive waste, engineered to isolate materials for 10,000 years, an enormous project spanning decades of work. Then, in 2011, the administration defunded the project. Construction stopped. Plans were shelved. The official explanation cited political opposition from Nevada, environmental concerns, cost overruns reaching $15 billion. The facility would never open for its intended nuclear waste purpose. That's the documented story. But here's what raises questions. The tunnels exist. The infrastructure is built. Access shafts completed. Ventilation operational. Power systems installed. All that work doesn't simply disappear. The mountain is hollowed out. Those chambers represent substantial investment. Workers who helped construct Yucca Mountain described facilities beyond what was publicly documented for waste storage. Multiple levels of development, blast doors in unexpected locations, areas requiring special security clearances beyond standard construction access, side tunnels not included in public documentation. One contractor described chambers equipped with advanced ventilation systems, unusual for a basic storage repository. The geology of Yucca Mountain makes it valuable for secure facilities. Stable volcanic rock, low water infiltration, remote location, existing security infrastructure. The same characteristics that made it suitable for nuclear waste also make it ideal for other secure underground applications. After official closure, some activity continued. Security remained in place. Power stays connected. Maintenance workers still access the facility regularly. The tunnels aren't abandoned. They're restricted. Unauthorized access results in immediate federal response. That level of ongoing security for a canceled project seems noteworthy. Budget documents show continued funding after the official closure, not for nuclear waste operations, for facility maintenance and monitoring. But the amounts are substantial. Millions allocated annually. That money maintains something more than empty tunnels. Something that requires continuous operation and security. Several researchers have examined satellite imagery of Yucca Mountain over the years. Despite official closure, some infrastructure work continued. Maintenance activities, equipment deliveries, activities suggesting ongoing operations of some nature. When questioned, government representatives cited environmental monitoring requirements. But the level of activity seems extensive for basic monitoring. The most logical explanation? Yucca Mountain serves purposes beyond the canceled public project. The tunneling and infrastructure provided opportunity for additional classified construction. When political opposition killed the waste repository, certain sections could continue operations without public scrutiny. The canceled project story actually reduced oversight. Yucca Mountain demonstrates how public infrastructure projects can mask classified development. Billions spent openly on tunneling and infrastructure development. But once inside that mountain, additional chambers could be constructed beyond documented plans. The waste storage might be canceled, but those tunnels remain. A substantial underground facility that already exists. Number 9 takes us beneath the city of Moscow. Metro 2. An entirely separate transit system built in secret during the Cold War. While tourists and residents use the famous Moscow Metro with its ornate stations, a shadow system operates below, connecting government facilities, military bases, underground command centers. Built for continuity of operations during potential nuclear conflict, construction began under Stalin in the 1950s, continued through the Soviet era. The system reportedly includes 4 lines, over 120 miles of tunnels, running much deeper than the regular metro. Some sections reach over 700 feet underground, deep enough to provide substantial protection. The Soviet government never acknowledged Metro 2. Russian officials still don't officially confirm its existence, but evidence emerged over time. Construction workers testified about building it. Metro employees described accessing lower levels. Government documents leaked after the Soviet collapse referenced the system. Yet officially, information remains limited. The tunnels connect key locations throughout Moscow: the Kremlin, the Ministry of Defense, intelligence headquarters, military bases, government facilities. One line reportedly extends to an underground complex beneath Ramenki district, a substantial facility capable of housing thousands, constructed entirely in secret beneath a Moscow neighborhood. The Ramenki complex deserves special attention. Residents above ground reported construction vibrations for years during the Cold War. They assumed regular metro expansion, but the tunneling went far deeper, creating vast chambers, building underground facilities with independent power, water, and air supplies. Infrastructure beneath their feet they knew nothing about. Declassified Soviet documents describe extensive underground construction programs, projects with various code names, plans for underground facilities that could sustain leadership during extended emergencies. The documents confirm substantial underground development. Moscow sits atop infrastructure built during the Cold War era. After the Soviet collapse, some information emerged through interviews. Former construction workers gave statements. Engineers described technical challenges. Security personnel disclosed their roles. These testimonies paint a consistent picture of functional, underground transportation systems serving classified facilities, reportedly still operational today. Access to Metro 2 is highly restricted according to reports. Special trains, dedicated platforms hidden behind structures in regular metro stations, security checkpoints. Only authorized personnel can enter. Moscow Metro employees can work for decades without ever seeing the lower levels. Compartmentalization keeps operations secure. The system's power consumption reveals interesting patterns. Moscow's electrical grid shows usage that researchers claim doesn't fully match the regular metro's documented operations. Analysis suggests massive consumption from sources not publicly accounted for. The electricity powers substantial underground infrastructure, something continuously operational. Modern satellite imagery shows ventilation shafts throughout Moscow, more than the regular metro requires, according to engineering analysis. These additional shafts reportedly serve the lower system, providing air circulation for deep facilities. Each shaft represents potential access to the shadow network, but they're disguised, hidden in regular buildings, camouflaged as utility structures. Metro 2 demonstrates how underground infrastructure can exist beneath major population centers, largely unknown to residents. Moscow's citizens travel above this infrastructure daily. The concept shows that secret systems beneath other major cities would be technically feasible. Hidden infrastructure serving continuity planning, all while populations remain largely unaware. The engineering required for such projects is substantial. Tunneling at depth, managing groundwater, installing independent utilities. The technical challenges are significant, but clearly solvable given sufficient resources and commitment. Number 10 brings us to what may be the most advanced underground facility concept. Classified underground command centers, reportedly built deep beneath mountains in the western United States. These facilities represent the culmination of decades of underground construction experience, the most sophisticated bunker technology ever developed. Information about these facilities comes from multiple sources over decades. Whistleblowers who've spoken publicly, leaked budget documents, congressional testimony given in closed sessions, then partially disclosed, budget line items buried in classified appropriations. The picture that emerges describes facilities unlike anything previously acknowledged. Construction allegedly began in the late 1970s, continued through multiple administrations. The projects involved tunnel boring machines that could work through solid rock, creating chambers at extreme depths. Some reports suggest depths exceeding 1,000 feet, far deeper than earlier facilities. Greater depth provides better protection and more stable environment. The complexes reportedly span multiple levels, perhaps 15 or more according to contractor testimonies, each level serving different functions: command and control, communications, living quarters, medical facilities, food production areas, water recycling, power generation, infrastructure for sustained operations lasting extended periods, not months, potentially years of self-sufficiency. One leaked budget document described substantial capacity, thousands of people for extended duration, complete self-sufficiency, no external support needed, air recycled and purified, water extracted from underground aquifers and recycled, food grown in hydroponic facilities, even waste management systems, a completely closed environment, an underground city independent from the surface. Technology at these facilities reportedly exceeds commercial standards significantly. Advanced computer systems, secure communications, electromagnetic pulse hardening, radiation shielding, seismic dampening, protection against multiple threat scenarios, nuclear, biological, chemical, even natural disasters, comprehensive protection for critical operations. Access is extraordinarily restricted according to reports. Personnel arrive via underground transport from multiple secure locations. Some arrive through military bases, others through government buildings. No single obvious surface entrance. Multiple entry points complicate tracking and maintain operational security. The facility's existence isn't officially acknowledged. Budget requests never specifically name them. Congressional oversight is compartmentalized. Even Armed Services Committee members reportedly lack complete access to information. National security compartmentalization keeps details restricted to small groups. Perhaps few dozen people know complete operational details. But evidence continues emerging over decades. Contractors who worked on construction speaking carefully within legal bounds. Engineers who designed specialized systems. Security personnel who served there. Their testimonies align on core facts. Substantial underground complexes exist. Extraordinary capabilities. Absolute secrecy protocols. One former contractor risked career consequences to speak publicly. He described working on environmental systems for a facility he never fully saw. Massive infrastructure. Industrial-scale filtration. Capacity far beyond any normal installation. He estimated the systems alone could serve thousands. When he asked questions about the project scope, his security clearance faced review. He stopped asking. Geological surveys conducted by independent researchers detected anomalies consistent with substantial underground construction. Seismic data showing void spaces deep underground. Electromagnetic signatures suggesting considerable power generation. Pattern analysis of restricted airspace revealing commonly avoided regions. The evidence points to significant infrastructure. Something hidden. Something maintained in secrecy. These facilities represent the ultimate expression of continuity of government planning, not just surviving initial catastrophes, but maintaining capability to rebuild afterward. Housing personnel with specialized knowledge and skills, engineers, scientists, medical personnel, agricultural experts, digital archives, seed storage, everything theoretically needed to preserve human knowledge and capability for rebuilding. The engineering challenges of such facilities are extraordinary. Life support at extreme depth, structural integrity under mountain weight, independent utilities for years, waste management in closed systems. Yet these challenges are clearly within human engineering capability, given sufficient resources and determination. The question isn't whether it's possible. The question is extent and location. 10 underground cities, 10 facilities built to survive catastrophic scenarios, from the acknowledged Greenbrier bunker to the reported deep underground command centers. The evidence is substantial. Governments have spent decades and billions preparing for worst-case scenarios. These facilities exist, they're operational, and they represent remarkable engineering achievements. The pattern is clear across all cases. Political leadership gets secure bunkers with extended supplies. Military command gets hardened facilities deep underground. Civilian government gets continuity of operations centers. This infrastructure exists for emergency scenarios. The question is scale and accessibility during actual emergencies. Consider what these facilities represent from an engineering perspective. Tunneling thousands of feet into mountains. Creating self-sustaining underground environments. Installing technology for extended operations. Maintaining absolute operational security through compartmentalization and classification, all while official documentation remains limited. The Greenbrier proved congressional bunkers are real and were maintained for decades in secret. Cheyenne Mountain demonstrates military preparedness for sustained underground operations with substantial infrastructure. Mount Weather houses emergency operations capabilities for civilian leadership. Raven Rock provides alternate command for the Pentagon. Area 6 pioneered deep underground construction techniques during the Cold War. Site-RT maintains backup communications infrastructure. Svalbard protects agricultural genetic diversity for future scenarios. Yucca Mountain's tunnels exist regardless of canceled waste storage plans. Metro 2 shows urban underground networks are technically feasible, and reported deep command centers represent the ultimate in survival infrastructure. These aren't theories. These are documented facilities with construction records, budget allocations, and multiple source testimonies. Several are openly acknowledged. Others remain classified. The engineering is proven. The technology exists. The commitment to maintaining these facilities spans decades. The interesting question is what this reveals about emergency preparedness philosophy. While billions were invested in specialized infrastructure for continuity of government, public emergency shelters remain limited in most areas. Resources were allocated toward maintaining operational capability rather than population protection. Whether this represents appropriate prioritization depends on perspective. Some argue government continuity is essential for organizing recovery and rebuilding. Others question the disparity in protection levels. The debate continues. But the facilities themselves are factual. They exist. They're maintained. They represent substantial investment in survival infrastructure. The engineering achievements alone are remarkable, creating livable environments deep underground, maintaining them for decades, solving challenges of power, water, air, and waste management in closed systems. The technology demonstrates human capability when resources are committed. What remains unknown is the full extent. How many facilities exist beyond those acknowledged? What capabilities do they really possess? Who exactly has access during emergencies? These questions remain largely unanswered. Classification and compartmentalization keep details restricted. The evidence has been presented, the facilities documented to various degrees, the pattern revealed across multiple countries and decades. Underground cities exist for continuity purposes. They're maintained in constant readiness. They represent significant infrastructure investments. The scale may surprise many, but the concept has been proven real through acknowledged facilities like the Greenbrier. What you conclude about emergency preparedness priorities is yours to decide. The facilities exist. That much is documented. The engineering is real. The commitment spans generations. Whether this represents appropriate resource allocation or questionable priorities depends on individual perspective. But the evidence for substantial underground infrastructure is clear. These cities beneath mountains aren't fiction. They're engineering reality, built for scenarios we hope never occur.